Hello, hi everyone, welcome back. I hope you had a wonderful session in the breakout career panels. I was in the Android panel and it was such an interesting conversation around security, infrastructure, and all things Android. Good to have you back. Waiting to see you in the comment section. Give us your feedback on the career panels and what interesting insights you got from that. Once again, our hashtags are Developer Student Clubs and SSA Student Summit. Please chat us on social media on Twitter. Send us your pictures and all the activities that we've been up to during this summit. We are at the halfway mark of the summit, and we have interesting speakers joining us in this next section as well. Next up, we have Jacqueline. Hi, Jacqueline. Thank you for joining us. Jacqueline is going to talk about the Google Solution Challenge. And if you have any questions around submitting your project, Jacqueline is here to answer that. And go ahead, Jacqueline.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Khadija. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really excited to talk with you all today about how to submit your projects for the 2023 Solution Challenge. And actually today we are launching, submissions are open. So between now and March 31st, you'll be able to submit your solutions. So before I go on, let me just do a quick introduction. So I'm Jacqueline Bedard, I go by Jackie, and I work with the GDSC global team and helping out from a global perspective. Again, really excited to be here. So this is going to be the agenda that I'm going to talk through. First, we'll talk about eligibility, then go through a quick timeline, talk about criteria, and then we'll go through a walkthrough of the submission form. And then after that, I'll leave a little bit of room for Q&A in case we have some folks that have any questions. I definitely want to make that available to you all. So let's start really quickly and just kind of walk through the eligibility. So we've been over this before, but I figured now would be a good time to just double check and make sure that you have everything ready before you submit your project. So you have to be a university student, undergraduate or graduate. You have to be above the age of majority in your country. And this is open to any GDSC members, including leads and core teams. And each person can only join one team. Now let's talk about some of the team building rules. So all team members must join a GDSC chapter, and I have a link there. We can maybe share these slides after and you guys can access that, but you probably already have access to Bevy. At least one person on the team must be a GDSC member at their own university. And teams can be made up of 1 to 4 people. I've had a lot of people ask, can I be on a team by myself or myself and one other person? That's definitely fine. It just can't be more than 4 people. And this last bullet point is one that comes up very often. So team members can be from different universities, they can be from different GDSC chapters, and even different countries. So I've had folks reach out and ask, I don't have a GDSC chapter close to me, or I'm at a different university and I want to join this other chapter. Am I able to form a team for Solution Challenge and submit a project that way? And the answer is yes, you can. So next, let's walk through the timeline. You may have seen this graphic before. And so you'll notice the third point there, March 17th, being today, is when submissions are officially open. So we have this time frame between March 17th and March 31st, where you'll have the ability to put all of those requirements together, create a demonstration video. We'll talk more about that in a moment. So you'll have a bit of time, about 2 weeks now, to go ahead and submit your projects. And then after that, all of those projects will go through a judging round. And then on May 3rd, we will announce the top 100 teams. So we're very excited. And then the top 100 teams will go through a mentorship phase, and then they'll have an opportunity to resubmit their projects again. And then we'll announce the top 10 teams on June 19th. And then we'll be getting ready for Demo Day, which is going to be August 3rd. Really excited. This is going to be a huge live stream on YouTube. We'll have thousands of people, and the top 10 teams will be showing their demo videos live. We'll have judges that will be asking them questions. It is so much fun. So let's get into the nitty-gritty here. So what does it take? What are the submission criteria? What criteria do you need to be thinking about? What do you need to put together in order to actually submit your project? So what I've done is I've broken these into the development life cycle categories, which I find it helps to kind of break it down that way. So starting with a project setup. So the first step is describing the challenge that you're solving by using a problem statement. And so actually, let me quickly move over. I have another slide on creating a problem statement with some really good information here. So a good problem statement presents an opportunity of some significance, some sense of urgency, where there's a real problem in your community. Since you guys have already been working on building these projects, the part that I want to focus on here is when you're submitting in the submission form, you're going to need to put together a paragraph of information that describes your problem statement. And so this will really help you to kind of put that together in a concise way. So when you're doing that, just think about 2 to 3 sentences, as much as 5 to 6 sentences that describes that sense of urgency, describes it in simple terms, also describes the impact on the community. It can be really helpful to use statistics, the size and scope of the problem. And that can really be kind of summarized in who, what, when, where, and why. So who's experiencing the problem? What is the problem? Where and when is it occurring? And why is it a problem? Why is it important to address? So after you put that together, and actually, let me take a step back. So each of these criterias are going to be worth 5 points. So when the judges look through and look at your demo video, look through your GitHub, the other part that they're going to be looking at is the information that you're going to provide in the submission form related to each of these pieces of criteria. So what they'll do is they're going to read through it, and then they'll give you a score between 1 and 5, and that's going to make up a part of your overall score. So also as a part of the project setup, you're going to need to explain what goals and targets and what inspired you to select the UN Sustainable Development Goals that you are focusing on for your project. We do have some more information. I have some resources at the end that you can utilize. The UN website is actually super helpful, and they have a lot of details in there and specifics on goals and targets. So what I would do is take a quick look at that. And then just make sure, think of the context of your solution combined with what those goals and targets are for the UN, and connect those together and provide that information in your response for that specific criteria. So moving over into implementation, you'll need to describe the architecture that your team chose. So what are those high-level components, and what's the responsibility of each component? And then in addition to that, what specific products and platforms did you choose? And why did you choose them? So which ones on the Google side did you use? What was helpful, or why did you choose those ones specifically? So those are part of the implementation. So moving over into feedback testing and iteration. So this is super important, right? We know we can create something, but it's only really meaningful if we get that real feedback from users. So you'll need to describe that, right? So walk us through the steps that you took to test your solution with those real users. And specifically, what are 3 feedback points that you received? And then what did you do to improve on your solution? How did you take that feedback and incorporate it into your solution to make it better? And then the second part of that is related to the code testing and iteration. So highlighting one challenge that you faced while building your code, including the details on how you addressed it, and the technical decisions and implementations that you had to make. So moving over into the success and the completion of the solution. So how does your solution address the challenge that you're looking for? What metrics, goals, outcome, how would you describe the success of that? Utilizing analytics, specifying the Google technologies, just thinking about anything that's relevant statistically, concrete data. And if you're not able to find concrete data, you can utilize a cause and effect, which is a bit more qualitative, but that can also be something that can support this part of the criteria. And then as a part of the second part, you're going to upload a 2-minute demo video. So it could be up to 2 minutes. It can't be more than 2 minutes. And this is going to demonstrate your working application and how the user interacts with it. So this is a great time to think through, what you want your demo video to look like. And in a few slides, I'm actually going to walk through the entire submission form, and we'll go through all those details. And we've included a very detailed guide about how to create your demo video, including like the production side of it, but also the content side of it. And then the last step here is scalability and next steps. So what do you see for the future of your solution? What are the next steps for your project? What would you do to reach a larger audience? And then the second part of that is the technical architecture, and just how did you think through building your technical architecture in thinking about if this were to scale to a larger audience, what would you just describing how you built out the technical components of your solution to support that if you did scale. Okay, so next I'm going to actually share my screen and show you the submission form. A few things I want to touch on beforehand that some of you may know, but just a quick reminder. So this submission form is for teams that have created a Project for Solution Challenge. And I've included a link to a document that kind of goes through exactly what I'm talking through today, just in document form. It has a list of all of the questions. It has the details on the demo video guidelines, and then it also has some information about the GitHub link and some best practices there. So I've linked that here, and I'll make sure that the team shares that with you all after. So here's an important part. We just need one representative from your team to fill out the form. I know with registration, we had each person register individually, but for the submission form, we're actually just gonna have one person. So let me go ahead and modify my screen sharing and pull up the submission form, and we can walk right through this. And I'll make this a little bit bigger so we can see it easier. And just as a quick reminder, if you all do have any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat. Okay, perfect. I see some questions in here, and I'll come back to those in just a bit. All right, so there's a lot of information here. What I just mentioned about who the submission form is for and when to submit, all of that information is here. And then we also have some more information about next steps, and we have a link to our website. Then there's also some important privacy information that you'll need to take a look at, and just make sure that we're helping to support you from a privacy perspective as well. Okay, so let's jump into the form. I've actually completed this up until the very end to make it a bit easier for us. So again, one person is going to fill out the form, just any representative from your team. And what you'll do is that representative will fill in their email address. You'll put in the name of your solution. You'll put in your first and last name. And then if you do have other teammates, then you can put those in. You'll notice that this one is required, and this information for the remaining teammates is not required, just for those that may be working on their own or maybe only have 1 or 2 team members. So you'll fill in the rest of your team member information there. And then you'll select who all is on your team. So you can select more than one here if you have a lead or a core member that's on your Solution Challenge team. And you may recognize this from the registration form, but we're curious if you have anyone on your team that are joining from other universities. So if you're all from the same university, you can just select no. But if you do have team members that are from different universities or joining from other GDSC chapters, go ahead and click yes, and there'll be another part of the form that will come up where you can select which chapters that they're joining from. So for this one, this is a part of, this question is just related to the person filling out the form and which GDSC chapter that they're joining from. So there's a long list here. I won't click into it, but we have all of our chapters listed there. So you'll just select yours. And then next, just looking at what GDSC related activities that your team has participated in. So you can select all that apply here. And if you have an other, you can go ahead and put that as well. Okay, so next, moving into the project information. So when did your team start working on the project? And we have a number of different months here that you can select. And I've just selected January 2023. And then next, you'll be able to select the UN Sustainable Development Goals that your team is focusing on for your solution, and you can select more than one. After that, you'll select the Google products and platforms that were utilized in your solution. And again, you can select more than one here. And if you want, you can also put other, and you can list other products and platforms that you used in your solution. And this is an important part. Our product teams are really interested in hearing your feedback. You all are the ones that are working in the technical components, in all the details of those products. And so we pass this feedback on to our product team. So this is actually super important. So what was interesting to you about the technologies, the Google technologies that you tried to implement or utilized or looked into or were curious about? What surprised you? What features would you have liked to see? So that will be really interesting to see what you all have to share there. Okay, so next, because I selected that I had team members that are joining from a different university, this additional question came up to ask me which chapters that the other team members are joining from. So you can actually select more than one here. And as you can see, we have a lot of chapters. So those are all listed. Okay, so I mentioned this earlier, and we've provided some demo video guidelines. This is very extensive, and I definitely recommend taking some time to meet with your team to go through all these details. read it, take a look, think about the plan, think about creating a plan for what you want your demo to showcase. So I won't go through all of these details now, but this just kind of gives you an idea of some of the durations, how you may want to start, and then just some more feedback on and having an actual working prototype that you're showing, and showing also like how users are interacting with your solution. And then in addition, including which Google products and platforms that you used and what the value was to the users or target groups. And then we have some video production tips and some tips on how to post the video. So in terms of video production tips, we are definitely not asking you to come up with, something that is super polished. Really, the most important part is actually the content of showing the demonstration. So if you want to film and then do like a voiceover after the fact, you're more than welcome to do that. We do ask that you record it in landscape mode, as this will be posted on YouTube. And you're more than welcome to just use your phone camera. Here's some details on how we recommend naming your video before you post it on YouTube. And you're more than welcome to keep it private. As long as you share the link with us, our judges will be able to open it and to view it. And then this is just a space here where you'll be able to share the actual link to your demo video. And I've just provided an example there just to have us walk through this. So next, you're also going to share your GitHub project link. And I wanted to actually go through I'm going to share one other document for some guidelines really quickly. So this is the document. I have it listed in the slides here, and we'll make sure that we get those to you. This is the submission guideline document that I put together. It has all of the information from the demo guidelines, and as well as the submission criteria, all of those listed there. So what you can do is you can actually make a copy of this document, and if you and your team want to start to draft what those responses would be to each question, that can be a great way to start thinking through the actual submission form rather than using the actual form. But let me go down here real quick to the GitHub guidelines. So yes, so you will need to share your GitHub project link in the submission form. And make sure to include guidance on how to run your code in the README file. And then something that we ask, just because it is so much easier for our judges if you make it publicly available just during the judging process. Last year, we ran into a lot of issues. If it wasn't public, the judges didn't have the opportunity to look at it, and we definitely want to make sure to give them access to all of the hard work that you guys have been doing. All right, so we'll go back to the form. And so this is just a verification that you've made your GitHub repository public. Okay, next. So these are the detailed responses that we went through earlier. One thing to note is that we have a 1,500 character maximum. Believe it or not, that's actually a lot of characters to utilize. So we want to make it long enough to where you have enough space to be able to detail each response to each question. But we also know that each judge is going to be reviewing a lot of submissions. And so we have 10 questions here listed. And so you'll have the opportunity to provide responses for those 10 questions, which is a lot. So we went through this earlier in depth, but But again, I just wanted to show you how this actually looks in the form so that it's familiar to you. So we start with the project setup, and we have those 2 questions that we went through earlier. Then we move into implementation. And again, we have those 2 questions here that we went through earlier in the slides. Then moving into feedback, testing, and iteration. Again, we have those questions there, and you can use the space here to respond. And then for the success and completion of the solution, we have 1 response here, and the other one is actually going to be directly related to your demo video. So you only need to provide 1 response here. And then for scalability, again, we just have those 2 extra questions there. So the last part is related to receiving emails about solution challenge, and you're welcome to put yes or no. If you put yes, we'll include you on our mailing list so that we can keep you up to date on everything that's happening moving forward with Solution Challenge. But if you're not interested, feel free to put no. And then we just ask that you agree to the terms and conditions, and then you'll click submit. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the slides. One additional slide that I've added here is a list of resources. So I have a link to the Solution Challenge website. This is a submission guidelines document that we walked through earlier. This is a direct link to the submission form. And then these 2 are helpful. These are resources from last year. So this is a video where the top 10 finalists provided their tips. And so it's a really great video. I think it's super helpful. And then this is a link to Demo Day from last year, which has a breakdown of all of the demo videos from the top 10 finalists for last year. So that's another great way, if you haven't created your demo video yet, to take a look at those videos from last year and see, what did they do well? What would you like to incorporate? What did you think was fun? I think it can be a really great way to get inspired. And so maybe you can do something where you and your team can meet, set up maybe 1 to 2 hours to 3 hours, and sit down and just look at all of these resources. So take a look at the demo videos from the past. Review the submission guidelines document. Go ahead and open the submission form and click through everything. It'll actually save your submissions. It'll save like a draft of it. So you can go ahead and put in some examples and just kind of click through, but just don't click submit yet. But just familiarize yourself with the process before you submit everything. All right. So let's move on to Q&A. All right, so let me just take a quick look through the comments here. Okay, so I see a question about GitHub. Should it be open sourced? I think we went through that, but let me just clarify again. We do ask that you make it publicly available so that our judges are able to view your code. That would be super helpful. Any other questions about that? Let me take a look. Okay. Will there be another team project program so that people that weren't able to participate in this one? This is a great question. What I would do is I would reach out to the lead of your GDSC chapter and let them know that you're interested in creating another program project, something that maybe you could do regionally or even just do with a couple of local GDSC chapters. You could do something like host a hackathon. I know we've got for this class, we've got just a couple of months left in the semester. So there might be something that you can fit in, but that is a great question. Another question. There's no GDSC chapter in your establishment. Okay, not to worry at all. This is a great question though. So on our GDSC event platform, which I've linked in the notes, you'll be able to go in and look in your area for a GDSC chapter that's close to you, or a lot of GDSC chapters are hosting virtual events. So you can still join a chapter that might be far away from you and participate in that chapter by joining virtually. Great question there. Okay, can I create a club for my establishment or wait to participate until the next year? So yes, you can get connected with another GDSC chapter, and if you wanted to submit for this year, and I would also recommend talking to your community manager and regional lead to see if it's possible to create a GDSC chapter for your particular university. Okay.
I think that's all the questions that we have. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for an amazing session. It was really insightful. I think that for Lionel that talked about not having a GDSC, one of the next sessions that we'll be having talks about that and how you can really get started with having a GDSC in your campus, because applications will open soon, which I would share more on in the next session. So yeah, thank you so much, Jacqueline. You can join the next session, everyone watching now, by going to the link that is on the screen. It's a career panel for technical recruiters, and I'll definitely see you on the other side. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye.